Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here, this time reviewing on Masters of the Universe, Icons of Evil, Mer-man. Now, as you know, Masters of the Universe, Icons of Evil is meant to be these origin stories to characters like Trapjaw, Triclops, Beastman, and Mer-man, and the story that I'm mainly covering is Mer-man's story. And the best way I can sum up Mer-man is saying, what if we took the creature from the Black Lagoon and Aquaman and tried to do a more monstrous take? And the story is meant to feature Mer-man's origin, his kingdom, and so forth. And the story mainly starts off in the oceans of Eternia. We see how in Mer-man's kingdom, we see how he returns back with the spoils of war and saying, "A gift from your king to thank you for your loyalty." "Ah, it's mine! He meant it for me! No, it's mine!" Arrogant beasts! They fight over unwanted scraps. And we see right away Mer-man is shown to be a terrible king as well as a leader. And we see how, despite the stable hand kind of talking about the beast not being sort of built for this sort of task that they're meant for, and we see how Mer-man sort of dismisses what he says instead of taking or heeding his advice, showing right away he refuses to listen to anyone. And we see Mer-man saying, "Leave me, I do not wish to be disturbed. I have much business to attend to." Of course, sir." And we see how Mer-man mainly sits down, but of course gets woken up, and turns out from his sort of informants that there's a civilization that is not really in control of his rule. And to him, this is an insult. This is another land that he wants. And we see him saying, "I'll not stand for this. No one will be free of my rule. They'll submit like all the others. I dealt with these people myself. Tell my soldiers to meet me in the stables at once." "Yes, sir." And we see right away that he kind of forces his stable hand to get the sort of beasts ready, which of course are meant to be seahorse-like creatures, and him saying, "Onward!" And of course, they mainly see that it's a small additional town, and one of them saying, "Good day, stranger. What brings you to our town?" "Your town? This is my town, simpleton. Bow before your king." I'm sorry, but I do not understand what you wish me to do." "I said, bow. How dare you defy my orders?" And we see right away the sort of leader of the others, Sea Life, mainly confronts Mer-man about his actions, and turns out the guy known as Aquarius confronts him about his actions and behaviour. And we see right away Mer-man kind of ends up unintentionally starting a feud between another nation. And this is where Mer-man and his people end up kind of getting badly massacred, and of course he's more focusing on attacks, in thinking things strategically. And we see how he tries to go against Aquarius, and mainly saying, "Our battle won, and the same the creatures of the ocean, our companions and allies. I alone have the right to command ocean life, and we may share the same abilities, but you do not treat your people with respect. Even now they want to turn on you. You assume too much." And we see how right away Mer-man summons his most powerful beast, and we've seen this obviously in the 2002 He-Man cartoon, and right away it kind of smashes through and destroys Aquarius' village. And we see how he mainly decides to take the beast as his own personal steed, and Aquarius in that knows that this is personal matters. And we see how the stable hand says, "I trust all went well, my lord." "Of course it did. I see you have traded up to a more suitable steed." only out of necessary. This beast is all as slow as it is strong. And we see right away, because of Mer-man's foolishness, he ends up causing a civil war between a neighbouring kingdom. And of course, Aquarius goes after Mer-man, and this is where we see how Mer-man doesn't really want to learn anything, and rather than actually heeding anyone's advice and all that, we see how Mer-man decides to summon the creature, despite not realising that his actions in that have pretty much put not only himself, but his own people in danger. And we see how Aquarius realises what was about to happen and saves a sort of mother and their child, saying, "Run now! I can't hold it for long!" "No, dear, you have to." And we see how obviously Aquarius gets him to try and see reason and makes a justified point. That obviously because of his actions and behaviour, Mer-man has put everyone in danger, and even Aquarius calls him a pathetic fool and makes a point. He brought this all on himself. He let his stubbornness, his ego, and his arrogance get the better of him, and instead of heeding Aquarius' words, he gets the sort of giant fish to eat Aquarius and decides to go against the other people who went after him. And just as it all seems like everything has won and his people celebrate, turns out Mer-man's actions not only destroyed his own kingdom, but also their home, showing that his arrogance, his need for a challenge in that, was all brought on by himself. And this is the story. I think my best thoughts about the story, it's enjoyable. And I think it definitely tries to do something with Mer-man instead of making him like the comedy relief character like the 2002 He-Man cartoon. I think there is an idea for a more serious, more sort of non-nonsense version of Mer-man. And I think obviously Robert Kirkman knew what he was going for, saying, what if we took Aquaman or Ocean Master and made a more serious version of Mer-man done right? Definitely enjoyable, definitely good, and it still deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.